Your dissertation is a cake. Your methodology chapter is the recipe. In this video, I'm going to help you banish your methodology anxiety by going through the recipe, the ingredients, and the step-by-step process to write your methodology chapter. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and for the last 2 decades, I've been teaching criminology, sociology, and social policy to students in UK universities. I have helped thousands of people to complete dissertations at undergrad, postgrad, and PhD level through explaining complex concepts using relatable examples. And it would be a pleasure to help you on your own dissertation journey. So if you're up for that, subscribe to my channel. Here's what I'll be covering in this video: the recipe, the ingredients, the step-by-step. The recipe. The methodology chapter is essentially the recipe for your research study. It is a step-by-step guide explaining how you did it. By reading through your recipe, your methodology chapter, somebody should be able to see what you've done in your research. Why? Because it allows them to judge the quality of your research. They can see whether the choices you made and the processes you followed to collect and analyse your data actually stand up to scrutiny. The person grading your dissertation is not going to try and make your cake. They are there to judge your cake, to taste your cake, to say it's beautiful or ugly. They are making a judgment about your research process, and to be able to do that thoroughly, you have to provide them with all the relevant details about it. You can't leave out any of the ingredients or skip any of the steps, and you can't present them in the wrong order because that's not going to make sense. So the recipe is vitally important. You need to make sure that you have all of the necessary ingredients and add them in the correct order. Let's take a look at what you'll need. Ingredients. What needs to go into your methodology chapter? Here are your basic ingredients, and the first letter of the ingredient gives us a clue as to what each section should be about. Butter. The B in butter stands for big picture or context. The S in sugar stands for sampling. The E in eggs stands for extracting data or collecting data. The F in flour stands for figuring it out, data analysis. The M in milk stands for moral and ethical issues. The S in salt stands for shifts, changes, and reflections. Let's take those ingredients one at a time now and see what we need to do with them, step by step. So first in is the butter, and the B in butter stands for big picture or context. That's the first thing you should include in your methodology chapter. Remind the reader of the aims and objectives of the research. What were you trying to achieve and how did you set out to do this? What was your ontology and epistemology? Check out my other video on what those are. I will put the link in the description. How do your ontology and epistemology link in with the type of method you selected? Qualitative, quantitative, or both? Your methods should logically follow on from your ontology and epistemology. There should be a natural progression, a consistent story. There's no need to go into lots of detail here. You're just bringing the reader's attention back to what you're trying to explore, the general approach that you're taking to researching it, and the type of techniques or methods you're going to deploy to do that. Next up, you add the sugar, and the S in sugar stands for sample. It's highly unlikely you'll manage to look at everything or everyone, so you need to take a sample of them for your research. If you're studying students' experiences of part-time work, you're not going to be able to include all of the students in the world in your study. You'll need a sample of them. So how big or small was your sample? How did you choose them? Who or what was included or excluded? Where did you draw the line? Where did you find them? Why did you go about it in this way? What technique did you use to find participants or cases? Cluster sampling, random sampling, purposive sampling. Why did you choose that? The next thing to add are the eggs, and the E in eggs stands for extract the data. Extract the data. You see what I did there? Here we're talking about data collection. How did you do this and why? Interviews, a survey, questionnaires, content analysis. Always link this back to your aims, objectives, and research questions. There should be a consistent story that makes sense. So, for example, if you wanted to explore the relationship between what people buy at the sandwich shop and how hungry they are, you're not going to get what you need by doing an in-depth interview with just one person. You would be much better off doing a survey with a larger number of people. Next, we add the flour, and the F in flour stands for figure it out. This is the section where you write about your data analysis. Once you'd collected your data, what did you do with it? What techniques did you choose to analyse it and why? Thematic analysis, grounded theory, analytical statistics, what tests did you use and why? Again, always link this to your aims, objectives and research questions. How does your data analysis technique help you get answers to those questions? Now you need to add the milk, and the M in milk stands for moral and ethical considerations. What did you do to prevent harm, to ensure informed consent, address privacy and avoid deception in your research? If you were researching with people, how did you ensure that they were okay with everything? If you were dealing with secondary data, cases, documents or artifacts, what moral and ethical issues were there? Lastly comes a pinch of salt, a bit of seasoning, and the S represents shifts, changes and reflections. Very rarely does a research project pan out exactly as you had anticipated. We often have to make tweaks and changes to it. What did you change from your original plan? How did the research you ended up doing differ from the research you thought you were going to do? Why? What didn't work out? Where did you have to pivot and change things up a bit to get your research done? Write about that here. And that is your methodology chapter, the recipe for your dissertation cake. If you want more tips like this, make sure to sign up for my weekly emails. I will put the link to that in the description. And I will be back soon with more advice and relatable analogies on how to supercharge your studies.